this online thing. It's good because otherwise
we are live now.
We are live already?
Yes. So
on YouTube?
Yes, you're on YouTube. Can we proceed? Okay. So hello everyone. Welcome to Ishmai. It's a little bit different, but it's beautiful. And in the name of Rise Up, thank you all of you to join us, and thank you for the collaboration. I now please Fabio, who is our moderator, can go ahead, please.
Yeah, thank you very much. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to today's event, Sustainability on Tourism, which is part, as we have already said, of the Circular Summit 2021. I'm Fabio Passon. I'm the president of Young Entrepreneurs of the European Union. I'm vice president. I said JEUNE was founded in 1994 in Brussels, and now we represent over 1,660,000 young entrepreneurs from 20 countries of Europe. JEUNE carries out activities to make the voice of European young entrepreneurs heard in the constant dialogue with the leading European institutions like the European Commission, European Parliament, European Economic and Social Committee, the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, and so on. As a vice president of this association, I have the honor to represent the important tourism sector within our organization, and I'm very happy that we have the opportunity today to discuss about this important industry with so prestigious and experienced speakers. The point of view that we will hear from our guests today are diverse from their vast professional and personal experience. We will shed light on the tourism sector in this critical moment of restart after the COVID-19 pandemic that has literally blocked the entire European tourism economy and worldwide in the last year and a half. Please allow me to introduce to you our wonderful speakers that are important personalities with different backgrounds, which will help us getting a comprehensive view of this important sector. So I don't know if it's already connected, but a warm welcome to André Pinotes Batista, Deputy of the Portuguese Parliament, with delegation, among others, on economy, environment, and energy. And then I want to introduce Antonia Correia. She's a tourism expert, a university professor, and founder of CoLab KIP. Pedro Lopez, head of Pestana Group, an hotel group that includes more than 95 hotels and more than 11,000 rooms in 16 countries. And then Christian Dijkstra, managing director of C1 Capital with over 20 years of hospitality experience. C1 Capital are hotels and service apartment investors and asset manager with a portfolio of 1,200 bedrooms with a capital value of 385 million pounds. And please, last but not least, allow me also to welcome Alberto Carvalho Neto, which is the president of JEUNE, who is well participating and following our discussion with great interest today. So hello, Alberto. Okay. Now I cannot wait to hear about their view and the challenges and opportunities for the industry transformation period to be more green and more sustainable tourist sector. So let's start with our first guest, André Pinotes Batista. Welcome. André, we are not able, okay?
Hi there. First of all, I want to greet all of you. It's a great pleasure to participate in such a meeting. I came to the awareness that for the first time JEUNE is led by a Portuguese, and that's something that it's very important for us. And I would like to stress that as a matter of fact, this kind of organization can make a huge impact on the gathering of knowledge and the gathering of people with different interests. And I was chatting with André Braz dos Santos about this. It's very important for us to have Alberto Carvalho at the moment leading, and I hope that he can fulfill all his goals and demonstrate how Portuguese are so sharp, leading teams and mixing different cultures and different goals. As far as this meeting is concerned, the questions that were addressed to me were about three different factors. The first one, I'm not sure if you want to,
I just want to ask you a few of these. You know, this week the COVID-19 digital certificate is being discussed in the European Parliament. I ask you for countries such as Portugal, Spain, Italy, and Greece, where tourism is a central activity for this economy, if you see the certificate with good eyes for more immediate recovery in the sector. However, it will even be easy to implement in this country, namely on constitutional issues.
Okay, so I like to watch to look to the digital certificates, and not only these digital certificates, but all the vehicles that we can build as a common ground between countries, because tourism will be settled on how much we can cooperate with each other, and the recovery of this sector will also reflect these efforts to work alongside. So it's not that the digital certificate will work as a silver bullet or something that will solve all our problems, but it means that we can cooperate. And this cooperation is key to recover a sector that was so deeply impacted by a global pandemic. And I do believe that there are some blocks, some constitutional problems, and another thing that I would like to address, it would be the rights of each person to their own, as far as data is concerned, their own privacy. But even though we have to consider data privacy and constitutional rights, I do believe that we can overcome these difficulties if we understand that we are working for a common solution. This is something that the European parliaments and the European governments fail a lot. Sometimes people, I'm sorry to use this expression, but I think it's a Portuguese expression that explains a lot of problems that Europe is not able to tackle. Sometimes we live too much alongside our belly, and we don't understand that this cooperation is key for our enterprises, for our citizens, for our economies to regrow. And since we are facing the start of, if we can say it, it's a wishful thinking, but I think it's settled on knowledge, so I think I can say this. We are starting to see the dawn of this pandemic. It's very important for each parliament, each government, each lawmaker to address our the rising problems with the determination. And the digital certificate, it's for sure something that can give that sign. As I say, I do not believe that the digital certificate will solve anything by itself, but it demonstrates that we can cooperate. And as far as that's concerned, I think it's a key measure. And if you are an operator for a tourism enterprise, and it doesn't matter which sector, which subsector we are talking about, I'm sure that knowing that a country was able to work with another one to find a common ground, it's something that will boost your confidence, that will boost your will to invest, because there is something in the tourism sector that few people talk about, but I'm sure that everyone working in this sector knows. When you want to start again, that comes with a lot of capital involved. The triggering of the sector again, it's not something that you do by opening a door. It's something that you do by investing a lot of money to activate again your brands, to activate again the habits that people used to have, but now they don't. So if you are asking the private sector to have this kind of attitude, you also have to demonstrate that as a legislator, as a politician, you are on the same page as they are. So, Fabio, if I was clear enough, the digital certificate, it's important. I don't want to dismiss that, but I think that it's more important as a sign than anything else. It's just a passport of confidence that everyone needs. The private sector, the public sector, they need to work along. So this is my point of view about this.
Yeah, I agree. Thank you. Okay, another question. Looking to the next decade and taking into account his experience as a national deputy and local politician, we are the most important investment for tourism sector in Portugal. Are you aware about the discussion about the new airport in Lisbon?
Well, as a matter of fact, more than aware, that's something that I lead, that discussion. I've been leading it in Portugal. It's as a member of the parliament, it's my duty to tackle the transportation discussions and all things, all issues that come with it. And the airport is something that cross-sells a lot with the subject that we are discussing today. So the point, there's something I want to address about the big infrastructures that you build in a country. Very often, it's difficult to make big agreements on such important structures, because people don't always understand that you must keep away for more than 4 years, which is the length of the term that the politicians are serving. What I mean is that since 1968, Portugal studied 17 locations for a new airport. When I made the first, when I addressed the Portuguese Parliament for the first time, I actually brought with me the newspaper, the original newspaper, addressing this. And it was very funny because even my father was not born when this discussion started. And 15 years later, 17 locations after, we are not building anything. So most times people ask me, why is this happening? Are the Portuguese unable to take decisions? No, we are able to make decisions. The thing is the lack of compromise between different parties. Parties need to understand, everyone will know because it's public, that I'm a member of the Portuguese Parliament for the Socialist Party, which is a Social Democrat party, as a matter of fact. But even though that I belong to the Socialist Party, I'm aware that politics are made of cycles, and we are in power at the moment, but in 1 year, in 4 years, in 5 years, we won't be. We will be in the opposition. And that's the nature of a democratical system. So my battleground, it's not a battleground for my party. My battleground at the moment is for people to realize that we ought to make a decision, stick to it, and support it despite being in power or in the opposition. What is happening with the airport at the moment is that the opposition in Portugal started to demand, and maybe it might be fair, I'm not going to make judgments about that, more environmental demands about the airport. The thing that we know is that the amount of money involved in the expansion of our airport capacity, it's the biggest investment ever in Portugal since Portugal exists, and we do exist for 7.5 centuries. So it's a lot. It's really a lot, and the biggest investment needs as well a huge compromise, and that's what we are aiming. So at the moment, what we had in Portugal was a very obnoxious law. And let me tell you, let me be clear about this. This law was made by my party. So this is the kind of mind of setup that I want everyone to have. Back in 2007, my country passed a bill in which each municipality could say yes or no to an airport. And it was my party who did that. And disregard that, I do not agree with this law. Why? Because this is a law that empowers a local municipality to use a veto over such an important structure. This had the impact that this is amazing, and at the same time, for me, it's shocking. If I was an investor and if I was studying the backgrounds of a country, and if I learned this, I would be, at least I would be scared to invest my money. So now, as a member of the parliament, I want to say what we will change to avoid this. In 10 municipalities, 2 decided to veto the new airport, and that was enough, which is something, as I said, I use the word obnoxious because it's really obnoxious that 2 municipalities that alongside represent less than 200,000 people in 15 million, they were able to veto this airport. So what we are doing is we are changing the law, because we don't think that it's proportional for a single city to block such an important structure. It's not that we don't trust in our local politicians. We do. As a matter of fact, I'm both a member of the parliament and the president of my assembly in my council. But we have to be proportional. So we have to fix this, because if this law setting, this architecture was the same in the, let's say, the railroads, you probably would have such lines that would cross only the municipalities that agree with you. So instead of building a straightforward line between Lisbon and Porto, you would have to make crosses between the councils that were agreeing with the line. Of course, it's almost comic what I'm saying, it's almost funny, but it's not supposed to be funny, it's supposed to be effective. So we are changing the law very soon to enable the government, this one or another one, to build the national infrastructures that they should and that we need. So this was the obstruction. We are solving it. And I want to be very straightforward. It was a socialist party law 13 years ago, 14, but we are changing it because it's wrong. And the lawmakers should have this flexibility. If a law is wrong, they should change it. Period.
Okay.
You don't have to lose yourself in partisan discussions, because it's very common in our family. If we commit a mistake, we apologize for it. In our professional environment, if we commit a mistake, we fix it. And in politician, it should be the same. Instead of dueling each other for non-important things, people ought to come together and fix what they have to fix. And the airport, and I want to end up with this idea, the airport will be a reality, because the Socialist Party understood that they should take the location that the previous government had. Now we are changing the law. Our stakeholders and the shareholders, they are all in the same page, and we will be ready to build this important infrastructure very soon. The study will be on in like 2 months or something, and we will not miss this opportunity, Fabio, for sure. I hope that I brought some light on why it is stopped, because sometimes the media are not very clear about what is happening. I have read in a lot of newspapers and some TVs, and I work on TV, so I've been paying a lot of attention to this team, that the airport in Montijo was cancelled. That's not true. It's not true at all. We just have to untie a lot of old ties that are holding back our economy, and our economy cannot be held back. It could not before the pandemic, and for sure it cannot now be held. And there's something that I would like to stress. When I hear people saying that the pandemic gave us time to think about this kind of decisions, I couldn't think that they could be wronger. It's not about having time to think or to spend. It's having time to set up ourselves for the recovery. So this pandemic gave us no time. It narrows the time for us. This pandemic gave us the extra responsibility to work now and decide now to be ready when we can, because we cannot waste any opportunities, as you know, and the recent British decision to remove Portugal from the green list, it's just an example. We have to be ready when we gotta go, not waste time thinking a lot about things that we already think a lot.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. Last question for you. One of Europe's biggest problems, and one that will have to be a challenge to be overcome, is the generalized aging of the European population. However, in terms of tourism, it will be also an opportunity, namely for tourism related to health. I wonder if you see this complement between tourism and health as a business potential, and how can states provide a new component to their public or public-private health services, since they were forced to be reinforced with the fight against the pandemic.
I'm sure, and as I said, I'm a social democrat, but one that goes well with the free of markets in goods and persons. I'm sure that this pandemic brought some niches of business, and this one that you mentioned, of course, it's an important one. Mainly when in Portugal we have such huge, large network of hotels that work with a lot of heritage and a lot of name to itself and reputation about thermal waters. For instance, it's just an example. We have much more than that. Some golf programs that are designed for the elder. But I would like to say that this kind of niches, they always existed and they will always exist. What the pandemic brought us, for me, and I think it is important to share with you, and I think that at least Dr. Pedro Lopez will agree with me, is that people used to talk about tourism as a monoculture thing in the economy. In the last 3 years, and this might come, I'm not sure if diplomatically this is the correct thing to say, but at least it's the true thing to say, so I will say it anyways. People were starting to demonize tourism for some external negative points that tourism also comes with, of course, it's natural. And the pandemic brought something for me, in my eyes, that I always was a huge supporter of the sector, is that when the tourism was over, people realized how much we depend on it. Families understood how much they can gain from tourism. So in the last 3 years, people were always talking about the burdens of tourism, and there's no bigger burden than the lack of tourism. Now we know it because we can feel it. So if the elders can be a niche, and I'm sure they are, the youth will also be a niche because they want to move. They are tired of the pandemic. There's a pandemic thing going on that enables the youngest to move even more. So of course there are a lot of challenges for us to address as far as modernization is up. The Portuguese government is tackling this issue with the biggest money envelope ever for a sector, because we know the arm that we introduced in order to save lives. And this is very important. Sometimes people would address me as a member of the parliament to know if I was aware of the pain that some decisions cause. I want to tell you that we were aware all of the time. Our economy minister, Pedro Vieira, is a man with a huge sensitivity to the economies, to the private sector. We chat a lot, and in each conversation I had with our economy minister, since 14 months ago, he always told me he was drawing a very ambitious project to recover the tourism sector. He didn't knew, I did not knew, neither all of my fellow members of this panel. No one knew how long it would last until we could recover the sector. but we are very aware of how much we already knew how much the tourism was eating in our GDP, but now we know much more than that. Now the families know. The ones who used to criticize, they know how much it weighs on each family. Because when a restaurant closes, a small bar, an hotel, a local host or hostel, there's a family that will lose its profits, and by losing their profits, they will be a weight for the state, because we will have to address them with money to support them. And I'm pretty sure that in the last 20 years, the Portuguese understood how tourism was important. But nowadays, I know that they know that it's not only important, it's indispensable. So I would like to stress this: when we draw this recovering bill that it's going to run, and it's very ambitious, and the Prime Minister himself, he blessed these decisions. We were aware that we need to aid our big companies, but it's not only about our big companies. Of course, they are the engine of this recuperation. I treasure a lot the individuals and the small owners of business, but of course we need the big groups, because they are our face in Portugal and abroad, not only in Portugal. And I'm sure that with the knowledge that our sector have, they will know these niches, the elders one, the youngest, others, they will be able to design new offers, because that's something very Portuguese. And the Portuguese people, they are really very specialized, and they have a lot of experience on this. And when we are faced with adversity, we overcome. There's an American, British experience, expression, which is to adapt and overcome. It was not the Portuguese who'd come over with that expression, but before the words were put together, we were already building some ships and traveling around the world. So we know a lot about adapting and overcome. And the Portuguese government and the Portuguese parliament, they are very aware of their role. I would like to end up by saying that we are available for each meeting that should happen. We have been talking for a long time, and we want to do the things that we have to do. Do not make any mistake. When people look at this crisis as a local thing, they are missing the point. Because what I often do is reading the newspapers around the world. And it's very sad, but at the same time, very enlightening to see that what was a new in Portugal 3 months ago, it's a new today in India, and will be the news tomorrow in Nepal or wherever it is. So it's very important that instead of criticizing the government for everything, each government, it's not about my government, each government, we should understand that the pandemic is for definition a global thing. But the global thing cannot dismiss a global dialogue. So what I would like to end up saying is that we are available. We have been talking with every agent, and we are available to hear everything as far as designing solutions for the future is concerned. And why is this? Because no one ever dealt with a crisis like this. We dealt with a lot of crises, but not one like this. And the politicians need to be humble, and the stakeholders, they need to be humble as well, and sitting on a table and talking about what is right, it's something that is very humble. I will end up my pitch by saying something that the Prime Minister told me on a meeting 12 months ago. Antonio Costa was addressing the members of the parliament about the laws, the extraordinary laws that we were about to design. And let me tell you, we passed more laws in the last year that we passed in the last 10 years. It's very important for you to have this knowledge. And Antonio Costa said that we should be very careful about the mistakes that we are going to commit. But he told us as well that he was pretty sure that some laws would not be perfect, and that we will make mistakes. And is the key aspect of his speech was telling the lawmakers that we should be very humble on correcting the mistakes we make, because new laws, extraordinary measures make you very susceptible to commit mistakes. I'm pretty sure that we addressed more problems that we created, but I'm also sure that we created some. So feel free to address us and feel free to criticize us for the right reasons. And the right reasons would be unnecessary laws that should have never exist or that don't have a reason to exist at the moment. As I told you, I'm pretty sure that we made more good than harm, but in such times, in such dark hours, of course, there will be mistakes that will be made. So I hope that I could bring some enlightenment to the discussion, and feel free to contact me anytime for whatever you need in a practical sense. Fabio, I hope
Thank you.
I could help
Thank
in a way, and at least to bring the Portuguese Parliament to this discussion. I thank you so much for you, and of course, I want to thank all the organization, and once more to JEUNE and to Alberto Carvalho, my best regards, and I will be watching the rest of the discussion. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, Andrea, for your very interesting statements and remarks. And let's now go straight ahead over with Antonia Correa. She's a tourism expert, university professor, and founder of CoLab KIP. So welcome, Antonia. The floor is yours.
Thank you.
From your
I will try to share my presentation.
Okay.
I think that I will do this in a very soft way, okay? Because let's see. I'm not able to share this.
Maybe you have not the right. Maybe the organizer.
Let me see if I'm able to share this.
Can help you.
Yes, please. No, you see here now. I was not able to find.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Yeah,
so travel again, yes or no? We do not know. I'm sorry. I think that I have very few to say to you about this. We are living in very uncertain times, and we do not know if people are going to travel again or not, and how they will travel again. But anyhow, I will share with you some of the research that we did about this. And all of this is changing all the time. Until last week, we were talking about a recovery in 2023. Now we are talking about a recovery in 2024. So we do not know quite well what to do, but anyhow, let's see some insights. Okay, until now, we have tourists that were trying to have a very democratic experience. Over-tourism is very expressive in our country, and Sun and Sand is leading the preferences of tourists. These tourists were expecting to be a little bit different in 2030, with trying to demand for nature and more ecological conscious awareness experiences. But anyhow, they were still over tourism and mass tourists. When we talk about the generations, we are able to see, you have here some comments that they share with us. Okay, so people that are trying to have quite different adventure, millennials, Generation X that are looking for memorable experiences, and seniors that are trying to be in peace and love, very quiet, very relaxed with gastronomy, singletons trying to have quite uniqueness and various status experiences, and emergent economies that do not know quite well what they want, but they want everything that we have to offer. Okay, so millennials are very ethical travelers, so we need to bet on this. Okay, we also need to bet this because they do not have time, but they have lots of money, so they are trying to combine their travel with their meetings and their compromises. So they have a lot to do, but mostly they will do this in a very quick way. Low average stays years, seniors that are very simple. They do not want too much, just to be quiet and to have very good wine and very good things to do. Singletons, people that are trying to share. This type of tourists could be the ambassadors of tourism in Portugal, because they are sharing everything they do, and emergent economies that are looking for mindfulness experience and shopping. And we do not have too much about shopping tourism. At least in Algarve, we do not have, and even in Lisbon, we only have the Avenida da Liberdade, and that's it. And this is a mix, so I don't think that we are prepared to have very good luxury shopping tourists. But anyhow, in 2020, the world stopped, and no one knows what to do with this. And what we learned from this is that more than half of the tourists, European travels, stop to travel. They reschedule, they postpone, and they switch from an international destination to a domestic one. Okay? And 21% cancel their trip. So what to do with half of the population that were not able to travel anymore? Let's see how they feel about this. Okay, we pick up more than 40,000 comments they left about this, and we use data mining to understand what's going on that. And it's very clear that our a number of tourists, a segment of tourists, a cluster of tourists that are very concerned with the relationships, or that is the same, do not hinder their family, about what could happen with their family. Affective, they are very anxious about this and not knowing quite well what to do. Okay, the others that are only concerned with the contest, they are mixed feelings. The first feeling is okay, I'm going and let's see what happens, okay? Or, okay, I will travel anyway, and if I have to be stuck, I will be. This is a very nice place to be stuck. So this could be also a very good message to us. If you come to Portugal and you need to be stuck, this is not a problem, because we have everything to offer to you, okay? I never saw something explored in the message and the promotions that the destination did in Portugal about this, okay? Because this could be a very good issue to share with the tourists. Okay, come. If you have to be stuck, we take care of you. Okay? Or the other people that are more concerned with, so contests, and because of the COVID, they only postpone their travel. Okay? Or also people that are very cognitive, so they are looking for a very rational decision. So we are following everything, and I will expect something from the authorities about the situation to decide if I could travel or not. This is also, okay, we have a lot of information about what's happening, but very few, I think very few was shared with tourists. Okay, the others that are more effective, okay, I'm feeling, I don't want to get in panic, but I also trust the government. They will try to find out a solution to us. Or I'm trying to find out some cancellation policies, and this is very important to me to understand if I book a trip, what will happen if I have to change my trips. We listened this on newspaper, on the journal last year, I suppose yesterday. One of the British people that come to Algarve were complaining that they were not able to be reimbursed, and they have to change the plans and pay a lot of money. So what's happening? We need to act very proactively on this type of issues, I think. So people were concerned, and when we do some sentiment scores, what you see is that people were afraid, even without cases, okay? So in Africa, they start to be feared about this, even if they do not have cases, okay? In Asia, it happened the same. So they start to be very concerned, and the number of cases were very small, okay? And even they do not have fatalities, but they were very concerned, and this concern was increasing. I think in Portugal, in America, doesn't happen the same. They were mixed, but this might be because of the government advertisement against the COVID. And in Europe, we start to be concerned, but not at the same time. So we were less concerned than the number of cases that we have had. So we were very optimistic, and that's why we enter in a very big crisis. So we need to anticipate. What is missing is to be more proactive and start to concern about this and to give an answer before this happens. Okay, 55% of people are willing to travel again, and the main markets, the top 3 markets that are willing to travel is the Poland, Italy, and Belgium. Okay? They are prone, and if they have the vaccine, they will even more prone to travel, okay? 60% of the Poland people will travel, 60%, 59% of the Italian people will travel, and 54% of the Spanish people will travel also. We are bet on United Kingdom in Portugal, but only 43% of the British people will travel. And we are missing Poland, Italy, Spain, and Germany that are more prone to travel than British people. Okay, think about this. What they are looking for, okay, now they are more concerned about the environment, so they are looking for heritage, culture, and cities. But empty cities, not crowned cities. And we keep on talking about growth. And I will talk about this very just before. So what they want coast and sea, culture and heritage, city break, nature and outdoor. Nature and outdoors is the thing that we could offer that best supply the tourists nowadays, as they are very concerned about security. Okay? They are looking for health and safety, relax, and price and comfort. Okay? And because of that, they are looking for places where they could find safety measures and hygienic measures in public areas, so not too crowded, in destination transports and accommodation, okay? but what concerns them the most is the flights and air travel. Okay, so we need to share also what are the security measures that the airports are offering to them. And this is very, very important. Otherwise, they will not travel by flight. Okay? They feel more safe if the health is the top concern of the destination. Okay? So let's share that they could travel to here. Okay? Because we are concerned with the health of our tourists. Let's do some collaboration with the hospitals and try to ensure that if they have some problems, they could fix it in Portugal and not to come back as they are doing now, okay? So they are concerned about the quarantine, the number of COVID cases, and to become ill at the destination. So health concerns. Here we could share promotion and the message that they could stay here. If they need to be stuck here, they will have everything they need. We could share also that we are not in a very difficult position and the number of cases are controlled. And if they become ill, we have protocols with the hospitals to offer to them some treatments and to be concerned. So the restart, what trends come to stay and how can destinations be prepared to welcome the new travel? I'm not sure that we will not go again in an over-tourism situation. We are still talking about growth, and we should be talking about quality development, okay? And grow and development is not the same thing, okay? So we need to develop, and to develop tourism, we need to bet on strategies to attract tourists that could stay more time and to spend much more. I think the lesson that we need to learn with this is that we need to change the strategy in Portugal. We need to bet luxury markets. We need to bet to attract tourists from new countries, not only repeat tourists, okay? And we need to be very concerned about the health and the care of the tourists, because the top trends is health and well-being, okay? Is sustainable experience, is digital experiences, is bucket list, is digital nomads, people that stay here for more than 6 months working at the destination and living like the population, okay? And we also need to think about cancellation policies, okay? This is a top issue that we should learn how to do. So, turn in, relate, update, be social responsible, and be transparent with the message, okay? And put in your priorities to be concerned with health of the tourists. And that's it. The formula is very, very easy to recover, okay? The only thing that we need is to change a little bit our strategy to be more looking for new strategies to attract social tourists and responsible tourists and people that are able to stay here more time and spend more, and do not think about to attract more and more and more people. Just to talk a little bit about the airport. If we do not have an airport, and this is a very long history, try to do a collaboration with Spain. The airports in Spain are not so far away from Portugal, okay? And you could create some jobs. Until you decide what to do with the airport, do not lose the opportunity to bring more tourists or better tourists. It's not more tourists that we need to bring, it's better tourists, okay? People that are more concerned with the environment, people that are willing to behave in a proper way, and people that are spending money and stay a long time in Portugal. And that's it, okay? Until there, please do collaborations. Okay?
Great,
Thank
Antonia.
you.
Thanks for the data you have enlightened. And I confirm the research. I personally know several Italians who are active in bookings. I personally hope to reach Portugal at the end of June to meet Alberto and to do our General Assembly, but the flights are full. So let's take a positive sign for your tourism economy like this. Okay.
Thank you.
Now I would like to hand over to Pedro Lopez, who's the head of Pestana Group. We share with us, based on this vast experience in the sector, another important aspect linked precisely to a subject of circular economy and the relationship between water and the world of hotel. So welcome, Pedro.
Thank you for the invitation. Mafalda, please, can you start to present? Thank you. The next one, please. Thank you for the invitation. I will try to do a presentation a little different than André Batista and António Correia, just to do 2 or 3 thoughts about the tourism in our experience, and 2 examples of measures we are doing now in Algarve. And concerning, like Fabio said, about water consumption, because in Algarve, south of Spain, south of Portugal, south of Italy, south of France, we have this big problem of less and less water. Next, please. Thank you. So just 2 ideas about the COVID and about how we are adapting and how we are changing our way of doing the things. About new hotel projects, for sure that at least in Europe, we will see a big slowdown in the pipeline for new hotel projects, which is logic and fair, like António Correia said. More and more tourists in numbers is not totally the way. So for sure, in the next few years, we will have less new hotels around us. And nevertheless, 2 subjects were already in our thought, but now it is in our top of mind, is the environmental issues and social impact on local communities of the new of these new properties. More and more, we have to take care about environment issues. You already added, and more we have to speak with communities, with local municipalities, and try to match and collaborate to be a win-win situation for new projects. For example, now we are doing a new hotel in the brand Pestana CR7, between Pestana and Cristiano Ronaldo. We are doing a partnership. We are doing a new hotel in Paris, and for the first time, usually we have to take with 1 resident or local association, like we did in London. Now it's 4. So at the same time, we have to discuss the project, to present the project, and to implement win-win measures. We are negotiating it with 4 local residents associations. For the side, in the operations point of view, for sure that we have to use and get used to do all these new measures, like measuring temperatures, social distances, sanitizing, and all these, I think, have also people before me said, will remain in the future for one way or the other. So we have to be prepared for this. And maybe in a few years, we even not remember how the social century, how the social distance started. I just remember you that today, when you go to airport, you have to take our belt, we have to take our shoes, we have to do a lot of things that security measures. Why? Maybe we started not to remember, but I remember you. All these measures were here because 9/11, and they are here to stay. So I think more or less the same. We will show up with some measures. We are doing it. Next, please. Thank you. So about water in Algarve. In Algarve, the total water consumption is about 230 million of square meters, and still the agriculture is the big issue, is the big part, the big piece of the cake with 60%. Human consumption is 33%. Of course, this includes tourism and golf. This is one of the developments I'll speak about, or is 5% of the total consumption of the water. We see something, and 2% is other ones. Next, please. Thank you. So, Pestana Group in Algarve, in the world, as Fabio mentioned, we are in a few countries, we are in 16 countries, almost 100 hotels, more than 11,000 rooms. Here in Algarve, we have 9 hotel units, resort hotels. We have 3 Pousadas de Portugal, 3 historic hotels, 5 Pestana residence resorts, and 5 golf courses. The two projects, the real ones, I will speak about is one related to golf, treatment wastewater use, and the second related to hotels, desalination plant. Next, please. Thank you. So what about the treated wastewater use? We have 2 golf courses close to Carvoeiro in Algarve, and we find that there are close to us a plant, a wastewater treatment plant in Carvoeiro, in Boa Vista. So we get in contact with Águas do Algarve, the company, the water utility company in the Algarve. They are also focusing in the same kind of situations, save water and find other uses and other sources of water. And instead of, like today, this water goes to a small river and after that to the sea, and it's totally wasted, we get an agreement with them to use this water to use in 2 or 3 golf courses. Main goals of this ongoing project is to diversify the sources of water supply for the golf courses, reduce the dependence of rainfall in a region with a difficult future on that matter, and as we are using less now in these golf courses, we are using water from a dam for agriculture and golfs. So if you are using much and much less water from this dam, we can it will be more free. We freeing the water for other consumers like the agriculture. Next, please. Thank you. So this is where we are. This project. That river is Arad River. In the north side is Portimão and Alvor Beach. Alvor Beach is where it's the next project I will speak about is in Alvor Beach. This one is about these 2 golf courses and the way of providing water, wastewater from them. Next, please. As you can see, this wastewater treatment plant in Boa Vista is very close to our golf courses, very close to Carvoeiro. So we already prepared the equalization ponds. We have prepared all the network of pumps and tubes to receive this water. Of course, after we receive it, we have to do a final treatment, and after this final treatment, we'll go for the irrigation of our golf courses. And this is my first project to present. Next, please. Thank you. This is the second project. In Alvor Beach, top right, we have a few hotels. Next, please. and it's a wonderful beach, Alvor Beach. We have about 7 hotels and resorts, 1 golf course, and about 1,600 rooms and suites. So always the water was a concern for us. Next, please. So what we did in 2008, it was after 3 no rain or almost no rain years. Was a dry. It was the worst dry period in history of south of Portugal, of Algarve, and also south of Spain. So we decided to know about it and about desalination, and we decided to invest on that. So we create reverse osmosis desalination plant. We invest a little more than 1,000 euros, and for 8 years, when it was a shortage of water, we use it in our properties. Now that fortunately this winter rain well here, but sooner or later we will have another very difficult period about water rainfall. So we are discussing also with the same company. Águas do Algarve is the company who runs the consumption of water in Algarve. We intend to do the investment, and they will run it for us, so we can free treated water for other clients. Next, please. So here the main goals are of course to diversify our water sources. So when the scarcity come again in dry years, we are prepared for face it. Second, we will use more water from public supply systems that can be used for other consumers, and we have to learn to use the seawater like countries like Italy, Greece, Spain, and do from a lot of years, but Portugal is always very difficult to adapt sometimes to new technologies. This is the case. This was the first desalination plant in Portugal out of Madeira Island and Porto Santo Island was this one, run by us. Thank you. Thank you. So thank you for your invitation. I am here for any questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Pedro, for your presentation, and thank you for your important example of circular economy applied to tourism. It's an important starting point for many parts of Europe that have problems related to water, like you mentioned. Finally, we conclude our discussion with Christian Dijkstra, Managing Director of C1 Capital Partners. Also, this will be a very interesting speech since it also sheds some light on the financial market and their views on the current situation in the hospitality sector. So welcome.
Thank you very much, Fabio. Thank you very much for the invite to speak today. I don't have a presentation, but
no, don't worry. I will ask you.
Run through my thoughts.
No, don't worry, Christian. Do you think?
I'm gonna just run through kind of some of the topics we have kind of discussed, or I've been asked to discuss. So I guess it's looking more from an investor, asset manager perspective at the hotel hospitality industry. So if we look at kind of the current situation we're in with the pandemic, I guess the key question is, when do the capital market players come back into looking at new acquisitions? And you know, from where I'm sitting, I see a lot of money interested in hotels. The biggest issue, as is often the case, there's a misalignment between the capital and the owners who might exit. And unlike any other kind of or previous financial downturns, let's say, the support from governments and banks are very different today than what they have been. So this price misalignment can be understood. So you have a situation where banks will be patient because there's no use in really pushing their borrower over the edge at this stage, because based on current trading, hotels have lost a lot of value. And I think also, given the situation, the banks obviously need to think about keeping relations moving forward. If you look at the States, however, there is a bit more there's a lot more pressure there from the banks, but largely that is driven by more aggressive mezzanine lending than what we see in Europe. There's a bit of that in the UK, but it is still fairly amicable, and kind of the goal is very much to find a way forward. So I suspect what will happen is that you will see more assets coming to market later this year when the government support ends, such as the furlough schemes, bank amortization holidays and interest holidays and covenant waivers. Those will all, I expect, won't be around by the end of this year. Obviously, depending a bit on how these variants pan out. So I suspect that there will be a lot of equity coming into the market at that point. What I've seen, kind of, the UK is one of the more liquid markets in Europe, and so at the end of March, Marathon Asset Management bought 15 Holiday Inns and 2 Crown Plazas at 180 million. And I think that transacted because there was a perceived kind of reduction in price. Cerberus bought this in 2015 for 225 million, but that was, I suspect they had some creative financial structuring which allowed them to actually earn reasonably well out of these assets. But the reason I mention that is because there was a lot of interest in this portfolio. And I think because it is a big ticket size, it gets equity out of the door. And it shows that there is equity for hotels, and that people realize that this is a temporary situation that we're in. But it will, I suspect, make people reflect on the type of hotels that they invest in, because obviously the trading fundamentals have now really been tested. In many cases, this will return, but as Pedro rightly points out, that the whole process of going to an airport has been dictated by a global event. I think hotels will also have to adjust as a result. So my view is that hotels are still very much of interest. It is an asset class that offers a huge amount of opportunity. And I think the ability to have both a real estate and an operating investment in one appeals to a lot of investors, especially a lot of the money at the moment is coming out of the US and Asia, the US being slightly more aggressive due to a different perception of the virus.
Sorry for interrupt you. What are the biggest challenges facing the hospitality industry from your point of view?
It's a good question. So I think that the coming out of this pandemic, it will be down to Through my experience is staffing levels. I think a lot of people have ended up finding employment elsewhere, and that then is a lot harder, or can be challenging, to bring them back into hospitality, generally an industry that is lower paid, unsociable working hours, and can be physically quite a tough job. I think it'll come down to the hospitality industry to kind of make that, show them that it is a industry that has career progression opportunities, and that the working conditions have to be improved. So at our hotels, we're now, admittedly, we are obviously also impacted by Brexit, so it's not relevant throughout Europe, but yeah, we're offering more holidays, just as an additional incentive, and I can see that other techniques will have to be deployed to get people back. And from an investment perspective, I think a lot of the banks at the moment are, or the debt availability in the market is a lot harder to get, partially because a lot of the banks have been focused on dealing with current borrowers, and that then makes it a bit more challenging for them to focus on new business. But I think we are seeing some positive movements there, but it is, there is debt out there, of course, but it is kind of non-traditional banks lending at higher rates, and a lot of, as I go through the other points I have, it all comes down to kind of the investment parameters need to work, and I think as we come out of this pandemic, the availability of affordable debt will be very important. So it will come, hospitality employs a huge amount of people, and I think that is something that will also drive banks and maybe governments to provide support to investors moving forward after this pandemic, not once they've reopened. So if we look at trends in hotels currently, there's a lot of focus on kind of work-live concepts, where the lines continually blur between leisure and business. I guess people have come up with the interesting term of bleisure, but that is, yeah, I think that will continue. The pandemic has obviously proved to people that you can work remotely. It's forced a lot of hotels, a lot of companies, obviously, to accelerate whatever remote working arrangements they were going to put in place. They had no choice, and many companies have now been able to cope. And I suspect many people will look at a much shorter week in the office. I know someone who, through the pandemic, spent 6 months in South Africa and another 6 months in New Zealand, and I don't think his employer even knew. So it can all, I think there'll be a lot more of that. So you're seeing hotel concepts catering to that, such as Zoku and Hoxton, where they have co-working space in there, or lobbies that are conducive to working in, which works well for, on the flip side, the investor, because you are now taking space that generally was pretty dead during the day, your lobby, and turning that into space that is revenue generating. So for me as an investor, that's very interesting. And that's why these concepts are growing, because it makes sense for the consumer as well as the investor. You're seeing a lot more kind of incorporation of well-being in concepts. So you've got the gyms have always been there, but the difficulty has been that it's hard to keep those up to kind of modern standards, and oftentimes they are forgotten about in kind of more corporate locations. But you know, the investment in those are probably not what they should be. So you're seeing a lot more concepts now incorporating a space in the bedroom. So Kimpton, Hilton, I think West Inn also have kind of a section of the room where you have a workout mat, weights, whatever it may be. Many hotels also kind of arrange running groups where you can run in the area, or they give you some pointers on that. But that'll be quite important. Again, the pandemic will accentuate the importance of one's well-being, and I foresee that continuing. There's a lot of talk always about technology. Hotels have tried on a number of occasions to get it right, and this will, obviously, the pandemic will accelerate it once again. I mean, I think that hotels, it still comes down to offering that experience, the service, and you know, finding the right balance. You know, I don't. You know, you've got the self-checkout terminals in supermarkets. I mean, there are supermarkets in the UK that are exclusively self-checkout, but you still have someone floating about to help you, to guide you. And, you know, Citizen M, you kind of see that concept. And I think that's probably where hotels went wrong in the past, where they thought, yeah, you can all check in yourself. I don't need to have anyone there. So it's finding that fine balance between going fully check in through a terminal, or having someone there. But where you will see growth, I suspect, is for food ordering, personalizing your stay. You know, that's a big trend too, that you personalize your stay to what you want. I mean, it used to be when Conrad Hilton set up, it was all about wherever you were, you knew you were in a Hilton. Today, people want the opposite, really. They want an experience. You know, I work with a partner, and he's got a glamping site, which is glamorous camping, and so a really high-end tent. And his room rate is, you know, about 280 euros. He's got a hotel next to that, you know, at 200. So people will pay for that experience, something different. I think you'll see a lot more of that, depending obviously on what kind of hotel it is, but in different permutations. I think giving that experience to a guest is vital, because that's you know, there's so many hotels out there, and the way to differentiate yourself is through the experience. You know, it's not enough to have a nice looking bedroom. It's giving the experience and service levels. Yeah, I think services, where it all started, and as we dilute the staffing levels, it's hard to sometimes keep those service levels, but it's very important, which ties into the experience. So if we move on to sustainability, so one of the or energy use is probably the biggest kind of contributor to CO2 emissions at hotels. So about 60% of a hotel's CO2 emissions is from energy, and hotels or accommodation, in the research I've seen, has shown that it's increased by about 30% since 2000, and that's more than any other industry. And I think that is what shows kind of a huge potential, where, you know, if in various climate talks, the goal is to confine the global warming by 1.5 degrees and to pre-industrial levels. But, you know, there is a huge amount of decarbonization required for that. And hotels have a role to play in that. Now, I, as an investor, will have a particular view on that, which I'll actually quite a strong view on that, but I'll come to that in a bit. But for new build hotels, you obviously have BREEAM and LEED certifications, so you are imposed. You know, the government can impose certain standards on you, and that moving forward will be, I think, most governments, if not all, will in Europe will enforce that, so that you have a certain energy rating, moving away from gas boilers, etc. Where there's less focus is on existing properties. And that's really where the attention is, because the reality is there's more existing hotels than you could ever build new hotels in Europe. So there's low-hanging fruit in the sense of, you can look at going with reusable energy providers, LED lights, sensors in areas that aren't often used. But for the much bigger projects, such as retrofitting heating and cooling systems, more support is needed. And when I look at where the issue lies, is that these are big investments that are required. And there's, depending on where you are, the grants or the support available for that isn't always what it should be. And the problem for the investor is that you don't always see a return on it. So you have if you have a heat pump, someone is not going to pay €5 more for that room. And that's where the disconnect happens, where you have a landscape where hotels are owned by companies that need returns, and you have that kind of social responsibility piece, which is totally understood. I think there's a lot of motivation to do that, but that also needs to translate into the consumer. So if you look at One Hotels, where Barry Sternlicht has created a sustainable hotel, but that is a certain kind of consumer, higher end, highly Instagrammable, highly, it's a guest that pays for the room themselves. What's needed is where corporates governments also kind of require their traveler to stay in hotels that have certain credentials. So we have hotels where we have a lot of government business. All they are interested about is the room rate. So I can give them my statement on how green we are, and they want to see that, but ultimately it comes down to room rate. And I think that's the disconnect in the market. You've got a huge amount of opportunity in also other things, such as using grey water, food recycling. And I think only now is that really being looked at. And it's a matter of time before the big investors will say, okay, that I see that as an opportunity to improve that and improve the capital value. And that, although is quite a brash way maybe to look at it, but ultimately that's what's needed, I think, is the support to do it, but also the general consumer. From the individual can make that decision, but also corporates and governments staying in hotels then also need to recognize that investment needs to generate a return, because otherwise, what's the incentive?
Okay, Christian, thank you for your contribution and for your statement, and okay, for your valuable insights of the discussion today. We are a bit late, but I know there's a question made from the public, from the audience. So maybe the organizer can share it, or.
Yes, of course. I copy to the set of the
okay
meeting, if you want it.
Okay, so yeah, one is from Antonia. what were the possible explanations for the different reactions in Asia and in Africa to the COVID?
Sorry, I didn't listen your question.
Yeah. One question is for you. What were the possible explanations for a different reaction between Asia and Africa to the COVID?
I think that this is related with the development of the healthcare infrastructures they have, and also this is related with the information that is shared with the population. Okay.
Okay. Okay.
I suppose that in Asia they were more trying to scare the population, so they were sharing very frightening messages with the population just to make sure that they do not pass the red line. And in Africa, the information was not so scaring and were not so difficult. So this is why people react in different ways.
Okay, thank you. A question for Christian. If someone does not pay more for a stay on a sustainable hotel, and as we are in an event organized by students, should education play an important role both for students and from the field of tourism, but also for those from managerial science? Sorry.
Absolutely. I think the awareness of sustainability is far greater than it was, and I think it will form part of many curriculums. And I think that it is, you know, I kind of, as I say, I put it in quite a direct way, but it does come down to the way to incentivize this sort of investments is to acknowledge that there is a difference between a sustainable hotel and a non-sustainable hotel, and I think that we will see that. You know, you already see it in terms of, you know, that's why organic food is more expensive and people will pay for it, and that is kind of the recognition that needs to happen. So I'm not per se kind of blaming the consumer. It's more around having something to identify that I've spent that money. What kind of certification? How do I kind of communicate that properly? Because there are a number of initiatives out there, but there's nothing that kind of guides the owner in a certain way of this is how you go about it. Once you've done that, this is the test you do, and you are able to then have this certification, and that gives you a lot of kind of credibility in the market. So it all comes down. It's a very good question. It all comes down to education. It'll play a massive role.
Okay, thank you, Christian. Well, I trust you found our discussion insightful and interesting. We could have discussed this important topic for much longer, but unfortunately, we are now coming to the end of our webinar. But I don't want to conclude without thanking today the organizers of Circular Summit 2021 for this important 3 days that have given us an innovative space for discussion with professionals and from within the industry. I would like also to thank the whole JEUNE structure for technical support. And obviously, again, thank you to all our guests and speakers today. I hope to see you again, maybe finally in person. So thanks, everyone. Have a nice day.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much. Have a nice day and nice week.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Have a great evening.
Bye.
Have a nice week, all of you.
Nice to see you.
Já paraste a transmissão, Gustavo?
Vou parar. Posso parar?
E deves.
Parou.